Something I see a lot of in the Dead by Daylight community, especially as of late, has been the overall morale of Dead by Daylight players within the game. Many people complain that the game isn't fun because the opposite side they're facing is cracked, being weenies in the endgame chat, the currently ongoing Go Next epidemic, various changes and updates taking out something that person liked, and so on and so forth. Hell, it's gotten to the point where both sides have imaginary rulebooks for each other and expect them to follow it to a T. Despite all this unhappiness and the game not even being close to perfect for a whole host of reasons that I could make an entire video over, there's a reason the game continues to hit 30 to 40,000 players on Steam alone. So let me tell you this. What if I told you that you don't need to follow a rulebook to have fun in this game? What if I told you that Dead by Daylight is as fun as you allow it to be? I guess a good transition to the meat of this video would be to talk about my own experiences within Dead by Daylight in order to provide a frame of reference. I began playing this game when Nemesis was the newest killer in the game. I didn't buy it because I was a big Resident Evil fan. Hell, the only games I've played were Biohazard, Village, and the entirety of the RE3 remake. No, I bought it because I was watching 8-Bit Ryan play the game and I discovered the big metal Dorito guy from Silent Hill was playable. After failing horribly because I was stupid and tried to use a GameSense heavy killer as my starter, I ended up playing a bunch of Wraith in order to learn since websites kept ranking him as an easy to pick up killer and bot matches didn't exist yet, so I was afraid to play anyone else. Things went decently for a time, until I got one faithful match against my very first bully squad on Dead Dog Saloon. This was back when Lightburn still existed, so I kept getting stunned for, to me at the time, no reason at all. I ended up getting no kills that game since I was still extremely new and I had no idea how to counter flashlights or that kind of playstyle yet. That, plus my first time playing Demogorgon going extremely poorly, ended up making me leave the game for a couple years until I decided to give it another chance thanks to Astral Spiff's influence on DBD Mobile. Let's go back to that Dead Dog game real fast. In that match, the survivors were all pretty decent at the game and were getting plenty of good chases and saves. They were very likely a 4-man, and I have no doubt in my mind that they were all having a great time on their end. Meanwhile, me, as the 32-hour Wraith player, I was having an absolutely horrible time due to not having the knowledge to deal with something like that at the time. In fact, that match traumatized me, and I still have some anxiety hopping on killer sometimes out of fear of something like that happening again, even though I'm leagues better at the game nowadays. Compare this with another experience I've had on Survivor where the killer just downed everyone and let them all bleed out, and that leads to the first point I want to make. Dead by Daylight is a PvP game, so countless mechanics are designed to fight back against the other side. If they weren't, this wouldn't be a PvP game and likely no one would be playing Survivor due to killers dominating from the lack of opposition. As much as people hate being on the receiving end of strategies like tunneling, slugging, flashlight saving, and more, they are unfortunately integral designs of the game as it currently stands. And unless something fundamentally changes, that's probably never going to change. I have a video planned in the future going over tunneling and slugging, but in the context of this video, you are completely valid in feeling frustrated over being intentionally bled out or turbo tunneled out of the game at 5 gens. It's never fun to be on the receiving end of that. Trust me, I know. While I was getting B-roll of this footage, I had a Deathslinger do this. But the important part of the experience is accepting that as much as it sucks, you should also keep yourself in check. Dead by Daylight is just a game at the end of the day. Games are meant to make you happy. If you're not having fun, I recommend doing something else that you like to de-stress. Take a warm shower, watch a movie while snuggled on the couch with some hot chocolate, play a different game.
Maybe try Survivor for a bit. No, but it's true. I mean, change it up. Maybe you're just tired, you know, or play something else for a week. Try Civilization or something, just for a refreshing change.
As long as it isn't illegal, whatever makes you happy, do that. And return to Dead by Daylight whenever you're ready instead of rage queuing and potentially ruining the game for everyone else. You have no idea how good taking breaks are for your mental health, which is one of the most important things to value for yourself in general, not just DBD. One thing I have to remind myself over frequently, since I can get really competitive sometimes, is that not every game is winnable. We all know solo queue's miserable, that isn't a secret. However, while there's ways to help bridge that gap between solo queue and Swift, the reality is that solo queue will always be miserable, at least in comparison to the power of a Discord call. This isn't just a DBD thing, this is literally every PvP game ever. With this in mind, try to set reasonable expectations for yourself and recognize what you yourself are capable of. Sometimes shit happens and it's out of your control. The amount of times I see one-sided map offerings and I get killed by a tombstone Myers without ever interacting with him prior is too much to count, and it feels horrible when you lose to something like that. But having self-control and recognizing that it was a bad game is leaps and bounds better than rage posting on the cesspool that is Twitter. Stuff like this sticks with us more because we often expect to win, since it's a feel-good emotion. We as humans like the feeling of accomplishment or relief after we conquer a difficult challenge. So when something goes outside of our expectations in a negative way, it tends to stick with us more. The point I'm trying to make here is, sometimes it's better to put your ego aside and accept that the game didn't go the way you were expecting. If half the people who rage post on social media about the blight who tunneled them at 5 gens were to get off the game and go listen to music or make a sandwich or something before posting about their experience, I truly think we would have a much less toxic community overall. If you're finding yourself getting bored, there's other ways that you can spice up your gameplay. As much as it doesn't feel like it, there are over 200 perks available to use in this game, and while not every perk is good, absolutely fucking not good, there's plenty of perks that can offer different playstyles that differ from the usual flow of the game. Alternatively, you can create your own goals and challenges or make your own win conditions, simply completing whatever archive you gave yourself before the match started. For me personally, there's oftentimes my main goal is simply just trying to get an achievement or clearing an archive mission I set up ahead of time, and once that's done, I don't give a fuck what happens in the rest of that game, since my personal win condition's done. Ultimately, when people say they bought the game so they can do what they want and they're not responsible for other people's fun, that is technically true. However, there's also a thing called etiquette and being a good sport to the people around you, which is why I don't accept that as an excuse for stuff like the Go Next epidemic. If you're on the killer side, maybe look into learning a new killer that you don't have much experience with or offers a different way to play. At the time of recording, there's 38 killers in this game, and each one has their own unique power and style of gameplay. There is absolutely something in there for someone, and expanding your killer selection will also help you long term when facing that killer as Survivor, since you'll now know what that killer can do. Dead by Daylight is a game with a ton of players and even more talking about the state of the game. The game itself is ultimately very fun for a ton of people. It definitely wouldn't be where it's at now if it wasn't. But the minority who say otherwise, unfortunately, are extremely loud, and it's often why you hear stuff like that so much on social media platforms. The game has a ton of potential for completely made up fun and challenges that you can make for yourself, and there's ultimately not a clear win condition outside of the MMR system that barely works half the time. The amount of fun in DBD is only limited by what you yourself allow to feel and experience, and the sooner you come to terms with the amount of bullshit this game can pull, the better off you'll be at handling it whenever they come up. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to check out my playlist in the description for more DBD content, and comment down below the reasons you continue to play DBD and how you find fun within it. With that in mind, cheers!